In the darkness of night, when the wind shifts and the moon casts long, eerie shadows, something ancient stirs. The air thickens with whispers, with the soft patter of unseen footsteps, with the rustle of leaves disturbed by more than wind. In some places, they say you can hear the low growl of a hyena, too close, too human. In others, glowing eyes appear just beyond the light's reach, watchful, knowing, and beneath the surface of quiet rivers or deep in the bush, figures emerge from water, from soil, from legend. These are not monsters from distant lands. These are beings woven into the very soul of Africa's storytelling, its warnings, its hopes, and its fears. Africa's shape-shifting spirits are not mere superstition. They are living languages of spirituality, encoded with lessons about respect, power, and the delicate balance between human and nature, seen and unseen. Where the West may whisper of werewolves and vampires, Africa tells of Were-Hyenas, Buddha, who walk as men by day and transform into hyenas by night, devouring not only bodies but the boundaries of the ordinary. It speaks of Mami Wata, the shimmering serpentine seductress, who beckons from riverbanks offering wealth, love, or ruin. It whispers of the Nommo, amphibious beings from the Dogon cosmology, who carry cosmic wisdom and the weight of creation itself. And it warns of the Ajogun, Yoruba's malevolent bush spirits, who weave misfortune and illness into the fabric of life, their shapes shifting with each encounter. But why did these stories take root so deeply? Why did whole communities whisper about beings who walked between worlds? What did these shapeshifters teach their believers, their storytellers? Were they mere tales to frighten children, or coded truths about fear, respect, survival? Beneath every mask, behind every animal form, lay a message. The world is not simple, and neither are we. The line between human and beast, good and evil, is not as clear as it seems. This is not just folklore, it is a guide for living, for respecting the forces we cannot always see. As we step into these stories, remember, they are not relics of a forgotten past. They are warnings and wisdom still waiting to be heard. Will you listen? In the highlands of Ethiopia, when the sun sinks and shadows grow long, stories begin to seep from the earth itself. They speak of the Buddha, men who by daylight walk among neighbors, merchants, and priests, but by night shed their human skin to roam as hyenas. These were hyenas, as the world calls them, were never just campfire tales. They were warnings whispered with reverence and fear. To accuse someone of being Buddha was to mark them as something beyond human, something that lurked at the edges of society, always watching, always waiting. The origins of Buddha myths lie in the meeting point of folklore and history. For centuries, certain groups were marginalized, labeled as outsiders. Blacksmiths, in particular, were often accused of wielding secret knowledge, of walking between worlds. They worked with fire and metal, shaping tools and weapons with skills that seemed almost magical to the untrained eye. But with skill came suspicion. Rumors painted them as Buddha, men who could transform at will, who gathered in secret under the cover of night to feast on corpses and conspire against the living. Over time, this suspicion hardened into fear. The Buddha became a scapegoat for unexplained misfortunes, missing livestock, sudden illness, even death. The hyena itself, with its eerie laugh and powerful jaws, has long occupied a complicated space in Ethiopian imagination. It is both reviled and respected. Hyenas clean the land of carrion, but they also symbolize chaos, wilderness, and the collapse of societal norms. In Ethiopian cosmology, the boundary between human and animal, civilization and wildness, is thin. The Buddha embodies this boundary, slipping between forms and walking unchallenged in spaces where most fear to tread. They are reminders of what happens when balance is lost, when humanity oversteps, or when nature encroaches too far. Grave robbing is one of the Buddha's most feared attributes. In a culture where respect for the dead is paramount, the idea of a being who violates tombs strikes deep at communal fears. It is said that Buddha dig up bodies not just to eat flesh, but to gain power. The dead, after all, carry secrets. To consume them is to steal knowledge, to disrupt the sacred link between life and afterlife. Tales tell of entire cemeteries desecrated overnight, of bodies found gnawed and torn, of shadowy figures vanishing into the bush at dawn. Were these just cautionary tales against social outcasts? Or were they warnings of something darker, an ancient truth wrapped in fear? The Buddha also feature in tales of secret gatherings, places where the hyena men would meet under the moon to perform rituals, trade secrets, and plot their nocturnal escapades. These meetings, though rarely witnessed, were said to echo with low growls and whispered incantations. To stumble upon such a gathering was considered a death sentence. It wasn't just the physical threat, it was the spiritual contamination. The fear was that once you had seen the Buddha for what they truly were, you were marked, forever haunted by their gaze. Yet despite their fearsome reputation, Buddha also reflect a profound truth about the human condition. They embody the fear of the unknown, the anxiety of betrayal from within the community, and the acknowledgement that no society is ever completely safe from those who walk its edges. They remind us that civilization is a fragile construct, always threatened by what lurks beyond its boundaries. But they also serve as a symbol of resilience, of how communities, even in the face of fear, find ways to preserve order through stories and warnings. In modern Ethiopia, while belief in Buddha has diminished in urban centers, it persists in rural areas where whispers still circulate. Some speak of old men with too much knowledge, of traders who avoid mirrors, of shadows that move strangely at night. Whether literal or metaphorical, the Were-Hyena endures as a figure that captures the imagination and stirs the deepest fears. They are not just monsters, they are mirrors, reflecting the thin line between trust and suspicion, between neighbor and beast, between safety and the wild unknown. Along the rivers, coastlines, and deep pools of Africa, shimmering beneath the surface of myth and memory, dwells Mami Wata, the water spirit whose allure is as dangerous as it is captivating. She is known in whispers and in praise songs as the seductress of the depths, the healer with liquid grace, and the punisher who strikes without warning. Across Africa and throughout the diaspora, Mami Wata emerges in countless forms, but always with an undercurrent of mystery. She is as ancient as water itself, her legends flowing from West African shores to the islands of the Caribbean, each version shimmering with the same blend of fear and reverence. In her serpent form, Mami Wata embodies both fertility and danger. The snake, coiled and watchful, represents the cyclical nature of life, the shedding of old skin for renewal, and the constant balance between power and vulnerability. Wrapped around her wrist or encircling her waist, the serpent is a reminder of her dominion over life and death, over health and illness. It also ties her to the deep, unknowable nature of water, calm and nurturing on the surface, but capable of swallowing whole cities without warning. To dream of Mami Wata is to stand at the threshold of desire and dread, of blessings and curses. Rituals honoring her are as varied as the communities that worship her. In some traditions, Women and men are possessed by her spirit during ceremonies, their bodies moving in rhythmic trances that mirror the undulating dance of water. Offerings of perfume, mirrors, combs, and jewelry, items reflecting beauty and vanity, are laid at riverbanks or in shrines to entice her favor. These rituals are not mere acts of devotion. They are negotiations, acknowledgments of her capricious nature. When honored properly, Mami Wata grants wealth, love, and healing. When slighted, she unleashes chaos, storms, sickness, and heartbreak. Colonial encounters with Mami Wata transformed her image, but not her power. European missionaries and colonial authorities, unfamiliar with the nuanced balance of her worship, often condemned her as a symbol of superstition or paganism. Yet, instead of erasing her, these attempts to suppress her stories only strengthened her role as a figure of resistance. In the face of foreign rule and forced conversion, Mami Wata became more than a spirit. She became a symbol of cultural survival. Her adaptability, her refusal to be caged by one image or story, mirrored the resilience of the communities that worshipped her. In colonial coastal cities where cultures mixed and tensions simmered, her worship became a quiet rebellion. The rituals honoring her were acts of defiance, affirming that African spiritual systems would not be drowned out by foreign doctrines. Women possessed by her spirit were seen not as hysterical but as vessels of a deeper truth, speaking for a power older than the colonizers' understanding. Her snake form, once a feared symbol, became a protective emblem, a reminder that danger itself could be wielded as a shield. Today, Mami Wata's presence has not faded. She appears in paintings, in pop culture, in whispered prayers over troubled waters. Her story, layered with beauty and fear, continues to inspire new generations to honor the deep, unpredictable forces that shape their lives. She reminds us that power is not always overt, that seduction and danger often come intertwined, and that water, like spirit, is both a gift and a warning. In her shimmering reflection, we see the resilience of culture, the endurance of belief, and the eternal dance between surrender and control. In the cliffs of Mali, where the Bandiagara escarpment rises like an ancient library of stone, the Dogon people have preserved a cosmology so rich and intricate that it has baffled and fascinated outsiders for centuries. Central to this cosmology are the Nommo, amphibious spirits, who, according to Dogon oral tradition, descended from the sky to bring knowledge, order, and life to the world. These beings are neither fully human nor fully animal. They are shapeshifters in the truest sense, slipping between realms of water, earth, and sky. Their stories weave together cosmological insight with deeply spiritual symbolism, blurring the lines between mythology and science, between the known and the mysterious. The Dogon describe the Nommo as originating from Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. Long before Western astronomers confirmed Sirius B, a dense, invisible companion star, Dogon elders spoke of it with precision, describing its weight, its orbit, and its significance. To the Dogon, Sirius was more than a star. It was the cosmic wellspring from which life flowed. The Nommo, as emissaries from this celestial realm, brought not only the knowledge of the stars, but the sacred technologies of survival, agriculture, weaving, and the ordering of society. They were the first teachers, and their amphibious nature symbolized adaptability, the capacity to thrive both in water and on land, in the known and the unknown. Shapeshifting in Dogon thought is not deception, it is expansion. It is the ability to transcend limitations, to embody the fluidity of existence itself. The Nommo's amphibious form reflects a deeper truth about life's origin, how we emerged from water, how we carry the memory of fluidity in our very cells, and how adaptability is a divine trait. Their shapeshifting is a lesson that survival is not about rigidity, but about learning to move with the currents of change, to embrace both stillness and motion, both the deep and the surface. The Dogon's connection to water is profound. Water is not just a physical element, but a spiritual one, a conduit to the ancestors, to the Nommo, to the pulse of creation. Sacred pools and springs are revered as gateways to the spirit world. In rituals, water is used to cleanse, to initiate, to bless. Masks and dances performed during the Sigi festival, which occurs once every 60 years, retell the story of the Nommo's descent and the ordering of the world. Dancers wear towering masks that represent the cosmic order, moving in patterns that mimic the flow of water, the spiral of galaxies, and the undulation of fish. These rituals are not merely performances, they are acts of remembrance. They keep alive the covenant between the Dogon and the Nommo, between the earthly and the cosmic. When the masks rise above the dancers' heads, when the drums echo against the cliffs, when the dust swirls around moving feet, the Dogon are not simply telling a story, they are reliving it. They are reaffirming their place in a universe where water and spirit are inseparable, where knowledge is a gift from the stars, and where adaptability is the highest form of wisdom. The Nommo's legacy also teaches about balance. In Dogon myth, one of the Nommo beings rebelled, disrupting the cosmic order. This act of defiance introduced disorder into the world, but it was not left unchecked. Other Nommo were sent to restore harmony, to heal the rupture. This cycle of fall and restoration is echoed in Dogon social and spiritual life. When someone breaks a taboo, when disharmony arises, rituals are performed not to punish, but to realign. The community understands that balance is not static, it is a living, breathing process that requires continual attention and reverence. Colonial narratives often dismissed Dogon spirituality as superstition, unable or unwilling to see the profound cosmological insights embedded in the stories of the Nommo. But for the Dogon, these beings were not just symbols, they were teachers, ancestors, and protectors. The knowledge they imparted about the stars, about the sacredness of water, about the power of adaptability, has allowed the Dogon people to preserve a way of life that honors both the earth and the cosmos, both the visible and the unseen. Even today, the Dogon continue to honor the Nommo through rituals, storytelling, and the careful stewardship of their land. The masks still rise, the dances still echo, the sacred pools are still visited with offerings and prayers. And in the quiet spaces between words, between movements, between breaths, the presence of the Nommo lingers, reminding the people that knowledge is a gift, that water is life, and that shape-shifting is not about evasion, but about evolution. In a world that often seeks rigid answers and clear divisions, the Dogon offer a vision that is both humbling and expansive. Through the Nommo, they teach that the universe is fluid, that the boundaries we cling to are illusions, and that true wisdom comes from embracing the in-between. Their story is not just a legend, it is a map, a guide for navigating the complexities of existence with grace, reverence, and the courage to transform. In the dense forests and hidden corners of Yoruba cosmology, the Ajogun lurk. These malevolent spirits are not easy to define. They are not ghosts, not demons, not gods, but something in between. Unseen yet deeply felt, they are the forces that weave misfortune, illness, and temptation into the fabric of everyday life. To the Yoruba, the Ajogun are reminders that the world is not just a stage for human actions, but a landscape populated by spiritual forces that can uplift or destroy, depending on how they are honored or ignored. The Ajogun are shapeshifters, masters of disguise. By day, they are shadows slipping through markets, unseen by even the most watchful eyes. By night, they become beasts with glowing eyes, prowling the edges of villages, whispering into the ears of the unwary. Some tales speak of Ajogun appearing as travelers at crossroads, offering tempting bargains or asking for help with innocent faces, only to bring calamity upon those who fail their moral test. Their transformations reflect the fluidity of their danger. Nothing about them is stable, predictable, or safe. Their presence is often blamed when things go wrong without explanation. A sudden illness with no medical cure, a child's inexplicable disappearance, a once thriving business that collapses overnight. The Ajogun, it is believed, are the agents of such misfortunes, not acting out of malice for its own sake, but as part of a cosmic order that balances human hubris and moral failings with consequences. Their mischief serves a purpose: to remind humans of their vulnerability, to test integrity, and to compel humility. But the Yoruba are not defenseless against these forces. Ritual protections are woven into the rhythms of daily life. Charms, known as Igbo, are prepared with sacred herbs, incantations, and offerings designed to appease or repel the Ajogun. Priests and diviners interpret signs and prescribe remedies, often involving sacrifices at shrines or specific behavioral adjustments. It is not uncommon for individuals to carry amulets or mark their homes with protective symbols, each a silent acknowledgement of the unseen threats that hover just beyond the threshold. Appeasement rituals vary depending on the nature of the affliction. A priest may recommend specific offerings to a river deity, asking that the Ajogun be placated through the intercession of a higher, benevolent force. Sometimes communal ceremonies are held, with drumming, dance, and chants aimed at restoring harmony between the human and spiritual worlds. These rituals are not just superstitions, they are acts of communal responsibility, recognizing that misfortune is not merely personal but can ripple through families, clans, and entire communities. Within Yoruba cosmology, the Ajogun occupy a paradoxical role. They are agents of chaos, yet their actions are necessary to maintain cosmic balance. Without the tests they impose, moral integrity could weaken, hubris could grow unchecked, and the delicate equilibrium between humans and the spiritual realm could fracture. The Ajogun's challenges are, in a sense, opportunities for growth, opportunities to demonstrate resilience, humility, and ethical strength. What makes the Ajogun especially fascinating is how they reflect the Yoruba understanding of life as a negotiation between forces seen and unseen. They embody the idea that misfortune is not random but has meaning and purpose, however unsettling. They teach that protection requires vigilance, that actions, both spiritual and moral, have consequences, and that even the smallest rituals can tip the scales between harmony and disaster. In the modern world, belief in the Ajogun persists, especially in rural areas and among those who maintain traditional practices. Their names may be whispered rather than spoken aloud, their presence felt rather than seen, but their influence endures. Whether as metaphors for the unpredictability of life or as literal spirits walking among us, the Ajogun continue to shape the Yoruba worldview. They remind us that the unseen matters, that integrity is always under scrutiny, and that in a universe where forces shift and masks fall away, wisdom lies in respect, caution, and balance. Across the vast landscapes of Africa, from thick rainforests to arid plains, from rivers that glimmer with moonlight to mountains that cut into the sky, stories echo with a recurring motif: transformation, beings that slip from human to animal, from visible to invisible, from known to unknowable. This motif is not confined to one region or culture. It is a pan-African web of shapeshifters, weaving a rich tapestry of belief that speaks to the heart of how communities understand power, survival, and the ever-shifting balance between order and chaos. In this web, nothing is fixed. Everything can change, and that perhaps is the oldest truth. In the Congo and Benin, the snake deity reigns supreme. Known by many names, Mkondi, Dan, or even linked to Mami Wata's serpentine form, this spirit embodies both protection and peril. The snake's sinuous form and shedding skin symbolize not only transformation, but also the cyclical nature of life. Its ability to move between earth and water marks it as a being of dual realms, a mediator between life and death, stability and change. These deities are often invoked during times of transition, whether personal or communal, as guardians of boundaries and guides through uncertainty. Their stories resonate with a universal theme. Survival requires the ability to adapt, to shed old identities and emerge renewed. In Ethiopia and Somalia, nightwalkers, figures that shift forms under cover of darkness, haunt both folklore and whispered fears. These beings are said to walk unnoticed among the living by day, only to transform into animals or shadows when night falls. Some accounts describe them as witches, others as cursed beings, and still others as secret protectors who punish wrongdoers. Their existence blurs the line between human and spirit, day and night, trust and suspicion. Like the Were-Hyenas, these nightwalkers reflect anxieties about hidden threats and the vulnerability of human life in a world where the unseen often holds more power than the visible. Central Africa's bush spirits, known by various local names, mirror these ideas. They inhabit the wild spaces beyond villages, manifesting as animals, shadows, or even disembodied voices. To encounter a bush spirit is to confront the unknown, the unpredictable force of nature itself. These spirits test travelers, challenge hunters, and sometimes protect sacred spaces from human encroachment. Their shape-shifting nature embodies the belief that the wild is not merely a backdrop to human life, but a dynamic, sentient presence with its own rules and guardians. The boundary between human and non-human is porous, negotiated through ritual, respect, and caution. What unites these diverse stories is a shared understanding of transformation as a profound and necessary force. Shape-shifting is not just a metaphor for deception or trickery. It is a recognition of life's inherent unpredictability. It teaches that identity is not static, that survival often depends on one's ability to adapt, and that power lies in flexibility. In these tales, to change form is to access hidden knowledge, to slip past obstacles, to align oneself with the rhythms of the cosmos. The snake does not move in straight lines, and neither does life. African shapeshifter myths also highlight a deep respect for nature's unpredictability. They remind us that the world is not ours to control, that the forces of wilderness, water, and sky operate beyond human comprehension. The spirits who shift between forms embody this truth. They are nature itself, unruly, beautiful, terrifying, and essential. To honor them is to acknowledge that human ambition must be tempered by humility, that our place in the world is not as masters, but as participants in a larger shifting dance. Comparing these African stories to global shapeshifter myths reveals both common threads and striking uniqueness. While werewolves in European lore, for example, often symbolize uncontrollable savagery and internal darkness, African shapeshifters frequently serve as reminders of moral and ecological balance. They test integrity, protect sacred knowledge, and uphold the boundaries between worlds. Unlike the Western notion of transformation as a curse or a loss of humanity, African traditions often frame it as a sacred gift or a necessary response to imbalance. The ability to shift is not inherently evil, it is powerful, and how one uses that power determines one's fate. Moreover, the African narratives emphasize community and cosmology. Shapeshifters are not isolated monsters, but integral to a worldview that sees all life, human, animal, spirit, as interconnected. Their transformations reflect the belief that the world is a living system, responsive to human actions and requiring constant negotiation and respect. This perspective contrasts sharply with the often individualistic, punitive interpretations of shapeshifting found in Western myths. Even today, the stories persist. In urban centers, whispers of shadowy figures at night still circulate. In rural communities, rituals of protection and appeasement continue. Artists reinterpret these tales in contemporary forms, murals, films, literature, breathing new life into old myths. They resonate because they speak to timeless truths. That power is fluid, that the unseen shapes the seen, and that survival depends on our ability to listen, adapt, and respect the world's mysteries. The Pan-African web of shapeshifters, with its myriad forms and meanings, is not just a collection of stories. It is a map of the human condition, a guide for navigating a world where certainty is an illusion and transformation is a constant. In these legends, Africa speaks not only of fear and danger, but of resilience, wisdom, and the profound beauty of change. Are they still among us? In the quiet corners of modern African cities where streetlights barely touch the edges of dense alleyways and the old world brushes against the new, the whispers persist. Tales of strange shapes shifting in the shadows, of eyes glowing red in the dark, of figures slipping between human and beast still circulate. Urban legends, yes, but beneath the surface of casual retellings is something deeper. The enduring belief that shapeshifters, whether Were-Hyenas, serpent women, bush spirits, or amphibious Nommo, are not relics of the past but active forces in the present. In marketplaces, people still avoid the gaze of certain traders, muttering that they might walk by day and hunt by night. In fishing villages, stories circulate of figures seen slipping into the water under moonlight, their forms melting into scales. In rural towns, elders warn children against wandering too far into the bush, where spirits test the foolish and reward the respectful. Even in modern settings where science and rationality are emphasized, these tales retain their weight, weaving into the subconscious fabric of daily life. The persistence of these beliefs reflects not ignorance, but resilience, a deep-seated understanding that the world is more than what we see. It acknowledges the porousness between worlds, the enduring presence of forces beyond the grasp of modern explanations. These spirits, whether feared or revered, are reminders of a cosmic order where nature, spirit, and humanity remain intertwined. They continue to offer a framework for understanding misfortune, success, and the unpredictable nature of life. In this way, the shapeshifters have not disappeared. They have adapted, slipping quietly into the background of contemporary African spirituality. They remain, as they always have, silent sentinels of mystery, waiting for those with the courage or the misfortune to encounter them. Shape-shifting spirits have always been more than just stories of fear and fascination. They are, at their heart, teachers, offering lessons about balance, respect, and the intricate mystery of existence. Through their fluidity, they remind us that the world is not rigid, that change is inevitable, and that survival depends not on domination, but on adaptability and reverence for forces greater than ourselves. They embody the truth that power does not lie in physical strength alone, but in the capacity to listen, to respond, and to harmonize with the unseen currents that shape our lives. These spirits are not simply legends of old. They are living echoes of a truth too often ignored, that every choice we make, every step we take is part of a larger unseen conversation between the visible and invisible, the tangible and the intangible. They call us to honor the land, to heed the wisdom of our ancestors, and to remember that we are never truly alone. Whether they manifest as the Nommo's cosmic wisdom, Mami Wata's serpentine seduction, the unpredictable Ajogun, or the haunting Buddha of Ethiopian lore, these shapeshifters reflect the interconnectedness of all things, challenging us to embrace complexity rather than fear it. So now I offer a blessing to you, the listener. May the spirits that dance between forms watch over you. May Mami Wata's waters cleanse your path and offer clarity in confusion. May the Nommo guide you through the darkness with the light of distant stars. May the Ajogun, though fierce, teach you vigilance and integrity. May the Buddha's shadow remind you to honor both strength and humility. And may all the shapeshifters whisper wisdom into your dreams, giving you courage to walk the thin line between worlds with grace. I invite you now to share your own stories, to speak of the moments when you felt the presence of something more. Leave a comment. Tell us which spirit speaks to you, which legend feels like an echo in your own life. Subscribe, not just to follow more stories, but to join a community that honors the old ways while walking forward into the unknown. Like this video not for metrics, but as a gesture of respect for the enduring mysteries that shape our world. And if something here has stirred you, share it. Carry these stories into your own circle and let them ripple outward. Thank you for journeying with us into the heart of Africa's shape-shifting spirits. The path continues and the spirits are listening.